Thank you guys so much for coming. I know there's a ton on your minds right now, and hopefully over the last few days, you've managed to find some manner of peace. Being here with you guys, though, some of the most charitable and hardworking parents I know, to be counted among you, that's my version of peace. So thank you all for showing up. Um, Abby and Chloe, welcome to our PA meeting. How do you want to do this?
Thank you for having us. Chloe and I will take any opportunity we can get to talk to parents and to talk about an issue that is huge on both of our hearts, which is social justice and racial reconciliation. So thank you for being here and partnering with us in this journey. To kind of set the tone, I thought I would share something that we shared with the 8th graders on Wednesday. I heard a quote in one of the podcasts that I'd been listening to, and the quote was that there are times in history that test the hearts of people. And it is in those times that we find out who is who on planet Earth. And I love that quote. And when I shared it with the kids, I said, you know, it's easy to look back and say in hindsight, oh, if I'd been at the Holocaust, I never would have done that, or I would have behaved this way. Or if I'd been in the civil rights movement, I would have behaved this way. If I'd been in the times of slavery, I would have behaved this way. And it's really easy to do that when we're looking back on it. But we are those people. We are in this moment in history that is testing the hearts of people, and where we're going to find out who is who on planet Earth. And I shared with them that the kingdom of God isn't just about a relationship between us and Jesus, but almost at least equally as important is that relationship between us and others. And the definition that we utilize in our middle school classes right now is that the kingdom of God is wherever people are trying to live out God's call to love and forgiveness that goes beyond the minimum requirements. And what I shared with the students is that right now, these times can feel so overwhelming. And as we look at all the things that are going around us, it is we just get feeling so powerless that it's hard to even know how to act. And it's hard to know where our hope comes from. But what I told them was, as I looked out at the screen and saw all of their faces, that's where my hope comes from, because they are learning all of this now. And I really believe that they are our hope. And that as they work every day to go that extra bit with someone else and go beyond the minimum requirement in the way that they are loving and forgiving and listening to others, that we can change the world. And that excites me to no end. And that is where right now I am finding my hope every single day. And the way that we're talking with them about doing that is that we are people who stand up, create space for each other, act with empathy and kindness. We listen first and listen actively, and we are curious. And that it is about changing our perspective and our perception. And the only way we can do that is to step outside ourselves into someone else's story. So I thought I would share that kind of as a way to kick things off. And then I think what Chloe and I want is a casual dialogue. We want to hear from you how having these critical conversations is going in your homes. What issues are coming up? How can we better partner with you? What are you wanting your kids to be learning here at school? Those kinds of things. So the more give and take and conversational we can try and make this strange virtual room, I think the better.
Well, my first question then, Abby and Chloe, if you don't mind, is just it being election week right now in your classrooms, what has the response been from your kids? And do you have any advice for parents who are fielding these questions at home?
Yeah, go ahead, Chloe. What were you gonna say?
Well, work with, all ages of kids at our school. And I had a great conversation with a couple third grade boys today about what they've been noticing, and seeing on the TV. And I think just hearing them and giving them the opportunity to kind of just process what's going on. It's a lot for a little guy to see. So I think just listening and hearing, and Abby can talk to, these young people are kind of powerless, right? They can't vote right now. And so that can make them feel a little bit helpless, but just giving them space and small ways to feel like they can make a difference, I think, is my approach. Abby, do you have anything?
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that we've done this week, like in 7th grade, for example, I was talking to them about the unsung heroes of the civil rights movement. And so this week they're doing biographies on those really young people, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old young adults that were so instrumental in the civil rights movement, the Freedom Riders, Freedom Summer, the SNCC movement. And part of my reason for that is to show them that while they feel powerless, that if they take these daily steps, there are things that they can do. And in the end, no matter who is elected, our work is not done. And the work looks exactly the same as it did yesterday, as it will tomorrow. And so if they can focus on that part and the part that they can control and the differences that they can make, I think that's helpful to them right now.
Can you both speak a little bit to the kind of what's in the curriculum right now? Like what is going on in the middle schools around social justice? And this is a big emphasis for the school. So kind of the parent community understands kind of where we're at right now, and that might start the dialogue of where we could go.
Yeah, so we created this new class this year that Chloe and I are still sort of navigating our way through exactly how it's going to work. But what we are using to guide this class for the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade community period are the social justice standards that we found on the Teaching Tolerance website. And they focus around identity, diversity, justice, and action. And so right now we have been working in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade on issues around identity, how we form our identity. In 6th grade, we started by talking about empathy, and we introduced them to the neuroscientific research behind empathy and the part of the brain. Sorry, just one moment. I have motion sensor lights, and they go off all the time. So your students are used to seeing me leave and wave my arms all around crazily. But anyway, we started with empathy and introducing them to the RTPJ, which is the right temporal parietal junction, which is the part of the, thank you, Google, I did it, Chloe, which is the part of the brain that expresses empathy. And then we showed them the fMRI research where they ran tests on people who were experiencing physical pain and the parts of the brain that would light up, and then people who were experiencing emotional pain, that they were receiving texts and bullying messages on social media. And turns out the exact same part of the brain lights up. And so we were connecting the dots for them on how important empathy is and how at their age that RTPJ part of their brain is really developing. And so we have to practice those skills of empathy. And we went from there into then perspective and perception and how we can walk in someone else's shoes. And just this week, we read a fantastic short story from this book called Take the Mic. And the short story starts off with 2 kids who are high school students crushing on each other at a band practice. And they're talking about getting ready for homecoming and who's gonna ask who. And on their way home, they get pulled over. The young woman who is driving is a Black young woman. The male counterpart in the passenger seat is white, and it's being told from her perspective and her fear, all of that comes out. And then it turns out that it's a promposal that he has orchestrated. And you see the perspective and perception. From his perspective, her perspective. And then we talked impact and intention. What was his intention, but yet what was the impact of his actions? So that's kind of how 6th grade is starting to look at this idea of identity. 7th grade started out by looking at identity, and then they went pretty quickly into how do we act for social justice. So they've been reading about the Catholic social teachings and the principles for social justice, and then are doing these 7th grade biographies, or these biographies right now on the unsung heroes of the civil rights movement. 8th grade has been talking about single stories. So they watched Chimamanda Adichie's TED Talk on the single story and the danger of the single story. And then they connected that to lessons on stereotyping and how the single story is incomplete. And so how do we complete stories about one another? So that's where we're at, kind of talking about that same idea of identity, but in 3 sort of developmentally appropriate ways.
And I'd add to kind of at the foundation of all of that, early on when we were just getting started, we did a lot of work around what kind of space we wanted to create to do this kind of work. So we talked about creating, instead of a safe space, a brave space, and what that looks like and feels like, especially in the online world, right? Where it's hard to feel brave and safe. So that has been a really important part to creating the space to have these really tough conversations and deep conversations.
So that's the new program, which is great. And Bernadette, can you speak a little bit to what it's been in the past, maybe Abby, you can too, and pre-COVID for going out and working with migrant communities. And there's also the 4th grade outreach for homeless, just kind of the broader things that the kids are just historically been involved with that this is kind of building on.
Yes, and we want to figure out, as a matter of fact, I met with St. Vincent de Paul to find out if there were needs that we could still fill in the area and to continue to do that outreach for the homeless with the 4th grade. So I'm working on that because a member of our conference here is working with the St. Vincent de Paul has taken on actually helping to pump out at homeless camps and the tent in their RVs and all of those areas. So that might be something that we actually can continue to do. So very much I would say in the primary grades, we always start from our from the principles of social justice, from the dignity of each person, from the dignity of the person in the classroom. I'm doing my work and talking about where the space is safe and making wise choices, and empathy. Empathy is a big one that we have worked with in the primary grades. As for the outreach, we will look at that at the 4th grade. The 6th grade will continue to still do outreach, right? They are going to do their food drive. 2nd grade, my most recent discussion in 2nd grade with regards to all of this area and respect for each person, each culture, was how now we need to, what are all our books on Thanksgiving? And they were discussing that in the primary department. We really have to look at what materials we have and teach all about Thanksgiving from a very inclusive point of view. Everything, not just Thanksgiving, but that was a discussion that we had over the past few days. So between what we're teaching in the classroom, what we are realizing that we really need to look into and look at how we're teaching, what's in the library, what's in our curriculum, all of what's in the textbooks that we have here. We really are taking a good look through researching and making sure that they all conform and tie in with the principles of social justice, which all go back to our gospel values. Very simply, our gospel values. How did Jesus treat those around him? What did he do? Did he exclude anybody? And also the Pope and his recent statement, "Thou shalt not exclude," the newest commandment. We're also doing a lot of discussion as a faculty on I have the document here, what is it called again? The Opening Wide Our Hearts. So we have started work. Some of us read this over the summer, others are going through now. We started taking a look at it again last week, and we will go through this in about 4 different sessions with the faculty. Trisha, I went roundabout. I don't know if I answered your question fully.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, we've had conversations about this when we were developing work streams for the 5-year plan about, how important social justice was in the broader sense to St. John specifically, and distinguishing the school under that umbrella in a lot of different ways as one of the differences in a lot of Catholic schools. So I just feel like everything's so timely for us to really be that spark to make that change. And so along those lines, with some of the things that you brought up, Bernadette, and I think maybe Sarah raised this at one of our prior meetings about, what are the resources that you have available to fund some of these programs, especially like redoing, getting new things into the library and things like that. How does that look?
Well, we will be able to, we're going to, and I met somebody actually recently who can help write a grant. Once they open that diversity grant through Fulcrum, we will apply for that, and we'll put it directly to curriculum and to reading materials that we can bring in. And Lisa has already been in contact with Lisa Longton, who is now teaching, but she also is still managing her library. Or the content of the library, the books. She's been in contact with other librarians because this is being done throughout the, many of our Catholic schools, that we are taking a look at our texts and our what's in our libraries. Because quite honestly, if I think of some of the libraries I've been in, the materials have been there since the 1920s when school opened. So not in ours. St. John's Library is really getting up to date now. Anyway, so, and they have really researched it and are looking at diversity, different protagonists from every culture, authors from all the different cultures and races, backgrounds, and really trying to step up these heroes and heroines that our children can read about.
This is just your reminder, everybody, that this is your safe and brave space. Should you have any questions, please feel free to just totally unmute yourself, put something in chat. Can we swing back, Abby and Chloe? Just taking it all the way back, actually, to the middle school town hall night. You guys talked a little bit about how each cohort you guys were trying to like create the space for each cohort to kind of like make these things.
Yeah,
you know what? You're better at talking about it. You do it.
Direct it. And I was going to say, and we've seen that happen, right? So for example, in our 6th grade, the conversation around, this was fairly early on, I think maybe week 2, the conversation around All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter came up. And what was so beautiful about it is that there were some saying All Lives Matter, there were some saying Black Lives Matter. When we got to the crux of the conversation, they both, from their perspective, were saying the same thing. They had been taught, as we do here at St. John, that everyone's created in the image of God, and therefore everyone has intrinsic value. So in their 12-year-old mind, that means all lives matter, right? But so what we did was then put together a history lesson for them on where the Black Lives Matter came from. We had like 3 videos that they watched, some reading that they did. And through that, they started to understand the context of where these terms come from. And it was really eye-opening. You could see them kind of towards the end go, oh, yeah, I get that now. And so that was one that was just completely directed from there. And 7th grade, same thing. We weren't planning to do the biographies until a bit later, but we had a conversation where we were talking about, as we were talking about social justice and we were looking through our chapter 24 from our Catholic handbook on social justice, you could see their faces as it dawned on them how far from that ideal we were. And there were tears. And there were people in that class that were broken and that were, one of them put in the chat, "This makes me angry and I'm not afraid to say that." And so we knew, right, because I said, it feels really hopeless, doesn't it? And so then you got to give them some hope, right? So you say, hey, these were young people and they stood up and they did the hard work and they made a change. And we can do that too. And so we immediately switched over and went for the conversation on the biographies that they're doing right now. And even the same with 8th grade, they're in a different place. They're more mature and they're starting to own all parts of their own identity. And so they're more able to talk about stereotypes or single stories that have hurt them. What does it mean when someone tells them to be more feminine and yet they're not identifying that way right now? Or and same with ethnic and racial identities. And so that conversation has kind of taken that path based on where they're at. So it feels really organic, which is quite lovely.
And that's on a class by class basis that you guys are, the conversation goes a certain way and you guys just organically pivot to whatever makes sense. Is that, I mean, I know nothing about teaching. Is that hard? Is that
It's,
like,
it's a fair bit of work, Alan. I'm not going to lie, but it's a fair bit of work. But you know, it's important work, and so yeah, our best resources, and Ms. O'Leary, Bernadette spoke to this, right? Like the curriculum doesn't exist. Like if we want to plug and play curriculum, it doesn't exist. The textbooks, our history, it's not, it's a master narrative that we were taught that then we're disseminating to others, right? So our best resources are the facinghistory.org website, which is Facing History in Ourselves, and it is fantastic. And the second one is teachingtolerance.org. They have incredible resources. And then we've got a number, oh, sorry, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
We're working hard to introduce the students to primary sources. So we've got some great websites that we've been introducing them to that actually have primary sources on them where they can go and look up an article that's right from that time. And like someone today was doing their biography on Joanne Robinson. And Joanne Robinson, for those of you who don't know, was instrumental in the Montgomery bus boycott. She was the one who disseminated all the information, lined up all the rides, made it happen from behind the scenes. And if you go on this one website, you can actually pull up the invitation, one of the very first sort of invitations that she sent out, explaining what the bus boycott was, why they were doing it, and how it was going to happen. It's right there, typed out in her words from when she wrote it. So that's been cool. But it's, I mean, yeah, it takes work, but it takes work for all of us to do this. It is work because we have to educate ourselves and relearn so much of what we've been taught. And then we've got to find ways to communicate that in an age appropriate way.
Mm-hmm. And it can also make people uncomfortable because it is relearning.
Yeah.
It's a lot of relearning. And so then there's that empathy is needed as we relearn. And we realize that, whoa, what we were told was not very accurate. So we have to go back and, yeah, and sit with that discomfort.
Abby and Chloe, with sort of that organic approach, do you still have like a actual series of social justice topics that you've planned out through the year, or is it just sort of like you started at a base point and you're evolving it as it goes?
A little bit of both, I'd say.
It's a both and. I mean, we have an overarching idea. We've got the standards that are guiding us, but it's really in flux.
We can't really predict what's going to happen, you know, as things come up, we want to be able to address them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a
So
question.
I'm kind of reading through the chat here. Oh, go ahead, whoever.
This is Laura. Yeah, I think, Abby, you made a comment that we all have to relearn. So with that, are there things that you're recommending that as part of the parent association, or that we help facilitate with other families of things to relearn for help with what's being talked about at school, because this is a relearning process for all of us.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think first off, Chloe put together a really fantastic set of websites that are, and it's books, websites, podcasts, you name it, it's on there and it's really, really good. So I think we sent that to Alan, right? That
Let
we
me,
can,
And I think it's on the parent website, right, Chloe?
It's on
On
my,
our school website, on yours.
we're putting it onto the website.
Yeah.
Page, but Alan has it and he can get that.
yeah. But that is a great starting point. And then I mean, if we had been back in person, Laura, we would have been doing some things to build on what we did last year. Like we had Christian Page come and we just started that conversation with him at the time then when the pandemic hit. We had 3 or more things we were going to do with him throughout the year that we did not get to. So I think as it is right now, we're kind of figuring out how to navigate these conversations in a remote manner. But once we're back together, I think there's more things like that that we can do as well.
I'm just scanning through this PDF right now, and we'll go ahead and put this on the PA website as well. So you guys will have 2 different places that you can find and peruse it at your own in your own time.
There are so many wonderful resources, but this is just kind of like to get you started and get you going. Yeah.
Let's take a look at chat really quick. Sarah's got a question, but just so that we can stay on topic, Lauren Exnicios wondering how we can bring these lessons to parents.
It's basically the same as Laura. Yeah, basically the same question Laura just asked. So
okay,
all set. Thank you.
And then can we swing back? I think this is a Bernadette question regarding Thanksgiving. Sarah Dean is wondering if curriculum is being reviewed specifically then per grade?
Well, we don't have new curriculum as such based on, I think is it Thanksgiving you're talking about?
Yes.
Sarah? Yeah. I don't know that there's really much out there that as yet that we have in the school that's just, that is historically accurate, but we will certainly kind of not teach it in the old vein. Having said that though, Mrs. Oynes showed me a book that was recently published. And so we are researching and finding as much up-to-date curriculum, of course, as we can. But we won't go about it in the way that we used to go about it. That much we do know.
And as a follow-up to that, I guess if we haven't had if there hasn't been the opportunity to get updated curriculum or new curriculum, will teachers be asked to do a review? I know some stuff came out last year in first grade that was like, I think it was just like a photocopy thing that came out every year and just got printed out again and sent home. And so a review of the current curriculum just to note things that might need to be reframed, reworded.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
You guys talked a little bit about perhaps a bigger project that would be developing throughout the year. Not to like, I don't know. I don't want to feel like, I don't want you to feel like I'm checking in like this needs to happen or anything like that. I don't have a middle schooler, but I was just wondering because it sounded really exciting. If that's progressed.
To be honest with you, I've blocked that from my memory. No, I'm not entirely sure what big project it was. What I can tell you is in the works is that I've already met with an 8th grade leadership team, and starting next week, we're starting a middle school social justice club. And one of the things that will come out of that is some ways to try and put mini lessons together and record them that we can then give to the primary teachers and the intermediate teachers to do. We did 1 or 2 lessons like that last year in person with our social justice club. We had just started it when pandemic hit, but
that was coming off of Christian Page, right?
Yes,
like that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so we're starting that back up in the next, I think we have 1 more leadership meeting and then we're going to open it up to all of middle school. But one of the things that the leadership team was talking about was how can we put together either reading some stories that are appropriate or little mini lessons on empathy and understanding and cultural identity for the littles, and then pre-record those and send them to those teachers as well. So that's something that we definitely want to do.
That's amazing. How big is the social justice team?
The middle school team, I've got 6 kids that are helping to lead it up, 6 8th graders. And then I've got probably 8 other 8th graders that expressed interest in coming. And then I would imagine, I don't know how many students will come. I think we'll have more probably than we would have even if we were on in person, because they're all craving things to do both socially, but also things to do to make a difference. And so I would imagine it's a fairly good sized group when it gets going.
That's beautiful. We've got good kids. You guys have good kids. Whoever has an 8th grader here.
I just checked the website, and I think the St. John website, and I think the resources that we put up in the summer when we began all of this discussion, they are right there on one of the bar talking to your children about race, diversity, and social justice. Chloe, I'm sure you put loads of them in there. Thank you. And we're going to be gathering resources from everywhere, so and trying to send out as much as we can to you. Probably too much, but you can never have too much. Sorry, never have too much social justice. No.
Do you need any help with Social Justice Club?
Yeah, I saw that from Molly. I will reach out if we do. My hope is that it will be student-led and student-driven, and that I will be able to take an advisory role. But if things come up, I will absolutely reach out.
Because I'm just guessing, just looking at our turnout, which is much larger than it has been, at least at our last 2 meetings. I imagine there would be high interest in helping you. So you just let us know if there's anything. Lauren's wondering how curriculum is adopted. Does it need to be approved at diocese level? Is that difficult at all? Do you run into any issues like that?
We do, but the diocese is also sending out as much as they can to us. So we've all been working on this, like the diocese, the principals also ran meetings throughout the summer and book reads and talks and discussions. And the diocese is very much pushing studies on diversity and inclusion, social justice. They push very strongly the principles of social justice. They will support and help us with as much curriculum as possible.
Bernadette, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm doing this with my biggest smile. We love our faculty, we love our staff, we love everybody. You guys are truly amazing. Is there a way that we could make our faculty and staff a little bit more diverse?
Well, I have tried. I think I was talking about this over and over again. I mean, I have advertised on NNMET, and I attend NNMET webinars, which is a hiring of diverse employees across, people across many fields, but mainly in education. And it's a source that April Little up at Holy Names gave me. But to no avail. I worked hard. I pushed that one on my last few hires. We would love to. So I'm putting it back on you all. If you know people who are solid, wonderful educators, diverse, send them to me.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Bernadette. Is there anything else, you guys? We've kept them for 36 minutes here, and we do have other PA business. Abby and Chloe, do you guys have anything else for us? Do you guys have any questions?
I want to say thank you, because I speak on behalf of all of the teachers. To say that you guys have been amazing in supporting us is putting it mildly. This partnership this year is really beautiful, and I am grateful to be a part of this community. And I'm grateful to be a part of a community that is embracing issues like social justice head on like this, and that there would be this many parents coming on a 5 o'clock meeting on a Thursday evening to talk about these issues brings me a lot of hope and joy. And I'm grateful for you all. And if you're having conversations in your home and things come up that you think, gosh, this would be a great topic, shoot it our way. Let us know. The feedback is helpful to us, and we appreciate you tremendously. And we are all in this together and are really grateful for you.
That's so well said. I'm just going to ditto it, Abby. Thank you guys so much for all the support and partnership.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. We're going to somehow pivot from all this amazing conversation to other things that are not as fun.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
So Alan, do you need me for?
I don't know.
I can stay on. I'm here.
No,
Right.
you should eat dinner. You should, get out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless, does anyone have a question for Bernadette? Veronica, do you have a question?
I'm sorry. I was looking. Is my microphone on?
Yeah, you're up.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't do this very often. I was looking for the little writing button. I couldn't find it. And on topic of this, I could message it later, but is there, a chance that we could maybe float the idea of a social justice club for every class? And by that, I am more than happy to spearhead like a parent-led. So it'd be, well, student-led, but like to not get the teachers involved. I can't imagine other kids not wanting to do it, but they're not in 8th grade, so they can't do it. Just an idea.
I can push it out there, and
just float it out there.
Yeah.
And if people are interested, then I could talk to Miss Mansfield and see if I can get something that's like idea topics for the month.
Well, I know that what has happened in the past. Let me tell you this: that this is when we were in school. Over last year, we had a social justice club, and she brought the speakers went to the other grades and spoke to all the young children and kind of got them involved and had they did little presentations on how to, how to address one another, how to be kind, how to be empathetic. They had stories, they brought little books. So they had topics that they discussed. If we were, and something that we have talked about too is getting these, and maybe this club might be able to get involved in this, but I know some of the older grades have been reading stories to the younger grades, reading books, and then the teachers present these when they're eating, because we try to discourage the children talking during eating time because their masks are off, plus they shouldn't be talking with their mouths full anyway. And so they've had read alouds. And part of this is that we're hoping that, more of the kids will get involved in read alouds and basically looking at topics of empathy and inclusivity as they do it. And this might be one way to get some of the younger children involved and empower them to create their club, their organization, their classroom.
I just wanted to throw it out. I would have written it. Sorry. If anyone's interested, or there are some ideas, then pass them my way. If there's any way to, I just can't imagine 3rd through 7th graders once a month wanting to get together. They'd get excited about it. So it might even become more than that. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Well, what I've been noticing at check-in is that our student body is becoming more diverse. And maybe more diverse than in my 10 years. It might have been more diverse before that. But I would love to hear from the parents and to have, some parents from other cultures come in and talk to us and help us and lead these organizations or these little groups too. That would be absolutely amazing. And to talk about their experiences. Their experience in a school that is, a predominantly white school, their experience in North Seattle that is predominantly, white, I do remember my own daughter. I don't know if I've told when she was the only white girl actually in her class up to, there was a second person came in about 6th or 7th grade, but she came running to me in 5th grade and said, "Mom, I'm white." And I said, "I know, love. Yes, you are. You are." And, you know, I was working away. I wasn't taking much notice of this. I was, whoa, what a statement. And next thing she said, "No." And she was, tears were running down her face. "I'm white. I'm white." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "No, you're whiter than white, love. You're Irish. You can't get whiter than that, you know." So, but it was a really, you know, it got to her, and it wasn't the color of her skin. It wasn't anything. It was her music, she had said something about music, and then she was, you know, some comment that she made, and so it brought up a great discussion, and but that sits with me, and so it was a new experience for us.
I love that personal story. Thank you, Bernadette.
Mm-hmm.
Is that cool, Veronica? You feel good?
Cool.
She's gonna float it.
I get back to you, Veronica. You're very good. You're always offering to help.
And already in chat.
Yeah.
In chat, it's blowing up. You're getting a lot of support on this idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sad Abby isn't here for that.
All right.
Chloe.
Yeah.
All
Sorry,
right.
I can't raise my hand fast enough.
Anybody else? Seriously.
Oh, let's hear Erica. I'm, you know, Erica Cantabi. Are you there, Erica?
Yes, I am.
Okay. It would be great to get you involved. Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, I had discussion with Alan before that offline. In the company I work for, I'm the lead of the diversity and inclusion committee that they have, and I would be more than happy to help out. I mean, like I chatted, I mean, there's not a lot of Black families or ethnic families at the school, so obviously we stand out. So I think it would be great for all those families to, like I said, and like you mentioned, to share their background, their histories, their experiences, because I think that you get to understand better what someone goes through by listening to someone that you can see every day. It's fine to listen to stories on TV, on pods, but when you see that person every day or every other day, and you know that she went through something, you understand better. You feel more empathy, and yes. So, and like I always said before, I mean, you guys can ask me any questions. I'll be more than happy to help out for anything. And yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Bernadette. I think that's a good note for us to end this little chunk on. Yeah, thank you guys for being here for that. Thank you so much.
Erica, I'll follow up with you too. Thank you.
All right, you guys, we've got other business on the docket here. Who wants to talk about monthly recognition? Because we 8th and 7th grade, you guys have already done yours, yeah? Chris, do you want to talk at all about that stuff?
Sure. We have it this month, so we have not done it, but it's in the works. We are doing little Thanksgiving chocolate turkey treat bags for everybody. Something pretty simple and cute and available in individual packages. So we'll be doing that. I don't know if Karen's on to speak to 8th grade. But a couple of things, like Alan, I know you and I talked. Sorry, I think the dog's coming running up the steps right now. About making sure everybody's clear on when it's their month, that we're talking about all staff, not just adding in the specialists and admin. Make sure all teachers are also included, as it's sort of a replacement of the monthly luncheon, which was open to everybody. So I don't know if that was clear last time when we discussed that.
So I think what we need to do is have a group discussion about that, because I think what we had planned on originally was just kind of what had been rolled out, which was we were going to do grade specific teacher appreciation throughout the year at the grade level, and that would be for the teachers and the assistants. And then the monthly assigned to each grade was going to just be the specialists and administrative staff, because they didn't have a home grade to represent them. And I know that's not what the 7th and 8th graders were planning to do. So I kind of wanted to get feedback from the group before we changed any of that on, how do people feel about it? What's helpful is kind of hearing from the 8th and 7th grade, because they went through it, that it was an easier process for them to do it. Just one full list with all the teachers and all the grades, all the assistants, all the specialists and admin. So does anyone have any comment, especially the people that originally were helpful in coming up with the plan for the year-long grade-specific recognition? Does anyone have any thoughts or feedback?
Could I just say though, anybody who has different opinion, that's awesome. It's really around sort of not excluding anybody. I know everybody's getting recognized, but like for Mrs. Q, if I drop off a bunch of stuff and it's just for 7th grade teachers and specialists and not these other teachers, that's a lot more work for her to put things in most boxes, but not all. Or if you're bringing in food and putting it out on a table, then how do you exclude those other teachers? So that was the reasoning as the 8th graders and the 7th grade, we started kind of putting this into action. That's what came up. Like, how awkward is that going to be to bring in, donuts and coffee, but not for all these other teachers? So that's the background of why this came up. But depending on what you are, giving, then maybe you can do it another way. Anyway, that's what brought this up.
Well, Chris,
to clarify the chat.
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify the chat for Jessica and to Laura. So the list that we have is inclusive. So there's XDC, there's all the maintenance staff. I mean, it's a large list and it's inclusive of everyone. We got it from Diane and Mrs. Q. So the question really on the table is, when we have these monthly assigned classes that, 8th grade had October, 7th grade has November, et cetera, it's going to roll through. Are we going to adopt a policy where it's not a policy, but a procedure, a repeatable procedure, that it's just the whole list like it was for the actual luncheon, which is what this is replacing, which would be all staff, all teachers, whereas before it was just not the grade specific teachers. It was just for the admin specialist, maintenance staff, et cetera, the people that don't have a home grade to be recognizing them on a routine basis. That's kind of what's up for discussion.
And each grade can decide what that means specifically to them, right, Chris? Like, you're not saying like everybody's got to do it this exact same way, right?
I'm proposing that since it's a replacement of the luncheon, that it should be everybody, but if other grades are able to handle it differently and choose that, then that's, well, we're making it pretty open. It just seems like, as far as the execution piece, it could be very awkward depending on what you're giving. But
right.
8th and 7th, that's what we're doing. But if other people have different opinions, then we can certainly agree that it's a grade by grade basis, just like we had said.
And I think that's fantastic. Well, just like on a grade by grade basis, the luncheons could vary wildly, right? Like those.
Well, it was always open to all staff.
Yes.
I mean, that was a given, that the lunches were for all staff. Yeah.
And I'm not making the argument, for or against making it a policy for, or whatever, that every time this is done, that all teachers should be included as well. I do like that idea though, especially since it potentially makes things easier for anyone that's, in charge of dispersing these gifts. But do you have, because this is related, that I was emailed by a couple of hospitality people that just concern over their cash this year, that the donations from their given grade were considerably lower than last year. I'll just leave it broad then, that like, what do you have any tips for that, or should we just automatically open that to everybody, that question?
Well, a couple of things on that. One, if it's something that's for the monthly, obviously not just their own teacher stuff, but if it's for everybody, you know, is there possibility to use some of the PA budget to supplement that? Because we don't have all of the big PA events. So that's one idea. Second is you don't actually need to spend money necessarily. It could be you get all the, you know, kids in the class to make cards or videos, or, you know, it doesn't have to be a physical thing either. You know, and we're doing chocolate turkeys. We're not supplying lunch for everybody. The 8th graders, I believe, gave gift cards to local businesses. So I don't know how much, you know, that ran up for them. But that's part of why we chose a little bit cheaper option, I guess, so that we could spread the money out a little bit more.
So one of the ideas from last meeting was that we could put together some kind of idea page, and I just don't know if I don't remember who brought up that idea, but that was a great idea and you should do it. But the successes so far, like 8th grade put together little packaged gift cards from local businesses with M&Ms, and that went out to all teachers, staff, and it seemed like they were grateful. And that's an idea. And 7th grade, you guys are putting together turkeys. Is that what you said?
Yeah, chocolate
That's
turkeys,
amazing.
so little treat bags.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I see Lauren mentioned in the chat, which is a good idea. You could also ask for donations from local businesses.
I think that idea originated because we're in 2nd grade together. I think we should credit Sue Pierce and Madeline Pennington. Yeah, so for 2nd grade, we're opening it up. We're telling people that if they don't have cash to donate, that, you know, in-kind donations are very much appreciated. So just some ideas for you guys who are here and thinking about hospitality and your showings of appreciation every month, and then the big one for all special ed staff and teachers. Just some ideas for you guys.
I think Laura has something she'd like to say.
We met with 1st grade, and we're not until June, but I know we had 2, Keely and Ellen just signed on as our hospitality chairs. They were just wanting to know up front if there was guidance for the full list of people and how much, because what we didn't want to do is they already sent out asks for holiday gifting, but they didn't want to keep asking people. So they wanted to aggregate things at once. So if there's ideas or just a view of what your recommendations are, that's what they were asking when we met as a group. So, I mean, I don't there's no question that people want to definitely recognize and help everyone. Is just making sure that we don't keep out so if there's thoughts there, our hospitality chairs would love that.
Hey Laura, this is, oh sorry.
Go ahead, Lauren.
No, I was just gonna say, this is Lauren, and how we've done it the past couple of years in my grades from 4th, well currently 4th and 2nd, is we kind of guesstimate at the start of the year what we think our expenses are going to be from a class level. So for instance, in 4th grade in the past, we've done an end of the year party, and then we know we have end of the year gifts, holiday gifts, and the luncheon. And so we'd kind of estimate, and then we'd give a total cost up front. And I think 2nd grade has also been following that model.
Correct.
So that way
they just didn't know. They didn't know how to estimate because they didn't know.
I mean, I'm happy.
So yeah. And I didn't know how to answer that for them. So if got it.
Laura, I'll circle back with them. Yeah. And Lauren, I will too. So Laura and Lauren, and I'll circle back with them because I'm a 1st grade parent. And I think the way that they did it was perfect. They sent out, and Keely and them have done this for a few years with the preschool. So I think they were perfect. And I'll just kind of touch base with them and we can kind of
Thank you.
Out what to do next.
They just wanted to know with things changing, they didn't want to underestimate if there was more need. So thank you.
Yeah, so I'll circle back to the group. This is a question from Shannon too in chat about the master list. So we do have the master list. I'll send it out after this meeting again. And then we can have kind of maybe a group discussion and email too about what each grade's going to do and what works for them. It would be nice to just do it the way that Chris is suggesting, just for ease of a lot of things. And also it's not a large, more group of people. It's probably 15 to 20. So we just want to kind of look for your comments on that. Again, a lot of this is just to make it an easy, smooth process, but none of this is set in stone. So if a group wants to do something different, then we can work it out. And then the rules about the food for monthly appreciation. So Bernadette, while we have you, do you want to go through those again for food? I know there's a conversation going on with Pablo right now too, I think for 6th grade about food and COVID and all these kinds of things.
Yeah, we may not gather. We do not have lunchroom gatherings. We are not allowed to gather. Well, I don't know what the allowed, but we are advised. CDC says no gathering, no lunchrooms, no. So teachers remain very much apart. We even within school, we actually will have, unless we can be outdoors, we will have Zoom meetings. So we used to be able to meet out at the portables when the weather was nice. We'd sit out there on the deck, or we sat out and had meetings around the flagpole with smaller groups, like just a department meeting. So it is hard to bring in platters. We don't do, we can't serve from platters and things like that. So that's sort of puts paid to the way many of you gave these wonderful meals, because we're not in groups.
So individually packaged.
Individually packaged, coffee cart, $5 over to Diva. Everything is welcome. Yeah, that is welcome. Mm-hmm.
And sort of as a reminder, when people's groups come up, or if they're doing something more broad for a larger group than just their teacher specific recognition, we are kind of pre-coordinating all of that. And Chris has been on top of it too with Bernadette and Pablo to make sure that we've got all the logistics down. So as soon as you know what's going on with your group for your month, please do let us know. It's not too early to just make sure that everything kind of jives with all the restrictions and health safety measures that are in place.
Can I just add, and I think I've said it before, the teachers are absolutely, they're so grateful for everything you're doing. They are also very aware, especially for the families, the 3 through 8 who are at home, that you are also working your full-time job and you are trying to manage your child. So they're ever so grateful to all that you do. And many of them are saying, oh boy, we need to send something out to the parents. But they are very, very grateful. I just want you to know that they are aware that you are also, you're co-teaching in many situations. And so thank you for all that you do. And thank you for supporting the teachers.
Thank you, Bernadette.
Mm-hmm.
Jess, do you want to open your mic and just expand on that question?
Oh, yep, sure. So I just had a thought, because we have kitchen staff that aren't doing hot lunch every single day of the week. Maybe we could ask them to do a special carry-out meal for the teachers instead of doing a group type luncheon. I don't know what their availability is, or if that would be an easy thing or not, but just an idea, maybe on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday.
Mm-hmm.
If we still wanted to do some sort of meal for them.
Oh, Dee isn't here anymore. Dee at the bail.
Here. I'm under Hyatt. Hi, everyone.
Oh, Dee. What do you think, Dee?
So I know Michael would love that. He is always happy and willing to feed people. I think that's his joy in life. The thing that I worry about is the volunteer situation. Is pretty tight because they want to keep as few people as possible from coming into the kitchen. So there's only a certain number of volunteers that can come in at a time. And adding that an extra 40 or 50 lunches might cause some stress in the actual production, cooking of and packaging of the lunch.
Could we do it on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday instead, or is that not an option?
So some of the kitchen staff do come in on Monday and Wednesday to prep for Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
And they get Friday off.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if they didn't have Monday or Wednesday to prep, I think it would even be more, it would be tighter, more difficult to get Tuesday and Thursday off the ground and running as it is right now.
Gotcha.
But we can always ask Michael. Like I said, he he's just so happy to feed people, and maybe something could be worked that way. I also wanted to share and ask Bernadette, Principal O'Leary too, that I know that some of the teachers have really short lunches. And so having a hot meal actually might be a bit difficult for them, and they may enjoy those little treats more, because I think some teachers may have like maybe 15 to 20 minutes to eat.
Yeah, everything is very compressed at the moment. The times are compressed. We're trying to get maximum time with the kids. Their breaks are shorter. Yeah.
And to that question, Lauren, I think again, it's the people who are coming into the area, right? They want to sit there and contain who is coming into the kitchen, and what
Makes
are the
sense.
numbers, and what are they doing there?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, there are only a few of us allowed into the kitchen. I mean, no, or anywhere in Egan Hall, out. So
I think teachers aren't allowed in the kitchen either.
No.
I mean, they're really limiting the numbers of who can be in there.
Yeah.
You run a tight ship, Dee.
Oh, it's not me. I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you on that one, Dee. So we're at 6:02, you guys. There is, so if anybody wants to get a COVID update from Bernadette here,
yeah,
it'll be 30 seconds, won't it?
All right, I did. And it's in today's.
But everybody, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're at 6:02. If anybody wants to bail now, please do. Bernadette will just.
I can do this in 10 seconds.
Okay.
We're staying the course. I did attend the webinar today. Numbers are way up, as you know. What was interesting from the webinar is that, well, it was a conference with King County Health Department that they did the study when the numbers were lower, and it was all done based on younger children. There isn't a marked difference between the numbers. It's as safe to be in school as it is to be in remote learning, is what they were saying, because a lot of the increase in the numbers is caused by social gatherings, people gathering in their home, not wearing their masks, bringing others into their homes. But having said that, the numbers have spiked. There is a huge, we went from 123 yesterday to 135 today in the numbers that when I checked this morning, or it was 2 days ago's numbers, and yesterday. And so we've been advised, stay the course, keep the children that we have here, and do not bring any more children into the building, even the younger ones. If we have the cohorts the way they are, just keep them that way. So we will wait. And then when we can we'll bring in third grade, and we'll probably do it in a hybrid fashion. They said that was safer. Then bring in fourth grade, maybe a week or two later, and then fifth. So it'll be very slow, very cautious, so that we know what we can manage. Because it's the masking, the distancing, and the hand washing and sanitizing. This morning, I spent about an hour making sure every classroom had a big jug, an extra jug of hand sanitizer, that none of them were working out. We've got our new hand washing sinks ready to go. So we're doing it. We really are trying. Doing our best.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Bernadette.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I've been trying to write down all of these resources that you put in there. I appreciate it. Thanks. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.